Welcome to Bat Lessons, the Batman History Podcast. I'm Brian.
I'm Alex.
And today we're going to talk who is such a good boy. Yes, he is.
He's
Ace,
such a good boy.
The Batman, or excuse me, Ace the Bat Hound.
Yeah. What do you know about Ace the Bat Hound?
Very little. He's a dog.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing it's the same dog that's in Batman Beyond.
I don't know.
Oh, so in Batman Beyond, it's a new person who's going to be Batman.
Yeah.
And there's Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
And he's got this dog that's, I don't know, it's a big, angry-looking dog.
probably Ace, I don't
and I'm
know.
guessing it's Ace,
Although, dogs don't live that long, so he's supposed to be pretty old on that show.
I like, now that we're doing this,
Yeah.
I'm probably going to watch the show again and listen for what he calls him. He's like,
Sure.
if he's like, hey, Ace, come
Yeah.
here, then I'll know. And you'll know, so.
So I thought this was a good follow-up topic on the previous episode, which is Comics Code Authority.
Yeah.
Right, so we're kicking off the Silver Age. The Comics Code begins being enforced, or national, I guess, begins including the Comics Code seal on the cover of their books in January of 1955. Ace the Bat Hound is introduced in June of 1955. So this is pretty much right after they have to start following the rules.
Interesting.
But I think one thing that's worth pointing out, and like I sort of caveated this at the end of the last episode about the Comics Code, but I don't think I did a good enough job, right? Which is to say that, like, you know, the Comic Code succeeds in like shifting the tone, and a bunch of publishers fold. But Batman and National were already family friendly.
Yeah.
So, like, at the end, last time I was saying, like, Western comics start to go away, war comics start to go away, romance comics start to go away. That's not actually really true. Like, DC, National, had some war comics. They had some Western comics. Those continue, at least in 1955, right? And when I was doing the reading for some of these comics, I actually came across an ad that is in the doc here that I want you to take a look at, that they were running. This one is from 1952, so this is before the code, right?
Okay.
Where they're trying to, like, I guess, advertise to parents. I'm not sure, like, explaining that this is good, wholesome stuff.
I will say it is kind of ironic what you just described of a whole bunch of other comics like closed doors, but Batman stayed open, even though it seems like Batman and Robin's relationship was like in the target.
Well, Wortham was worried about it for sure.
Yeah.
But like when it came to, well, so here's the thing, right? The Comics Code is put together by the industry, right?
Yeah.
So not only are they basically needing to choose the rules, they're paying the people that enforce them.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think some of the concerns they just didn't listen to. Like, Wortham didn't necessarily win the day in terms of, like, in his opinion, like, Batman shouldn't exist.
Right.
And the reality is that, like, they tweaked a couple things, you know.
Yeah.
It was really only the stuff that the crime comics, the stuff we were talking about, like Crime Doesn't Pay, with, like, the woman with the head chopped off and there's like blood pouring out or whatever, you know, that goes away.
Yeah.
But National was, like, into this. So, like, this ad, 1952.
Okay.
I want you to take a look at it.
So they've listed some folks that are all doctors on
Right.
the editorial advisory board. We've gone through we've got professor of education, professor of clinical psychiatry, director of the county juvenile clinic, and then a consultant on children's reading.
Yeah, Children's Study Association of America.
Yeah.
Yeah, so these are people that are putting their name on the. So this is before Comics Code, right? And they're trying to convince parents this is an okay thing for their. So they putting this big half-page ad in. Here's all of these, you know, professionals who understand, you know, what's good for kids or whatever, and then they list all of their comics there.
It's a big long list too.
They're publishing a lot of stuff.
It's like 30 ish.
And it includes stuff like All American Men of War and Star Spangled War Stories and, you know, Mystery in Space, Western comics. So I think like, taking a step back, like, the Comics Code kicks off the shift, right? Because the tone has to change, what's successful changes, but it's not the case that, like, they've eliminated everything entirely. In the book, in Seduction of the Innocent, Wortham talks about ads like this and he hates them. Yeah.
Does he say why he hates them?
Because it's like his contention is that they're lying to parents, right? That like it's like lulling you into a false sense of like security about
And so he finds them like disingenuous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all that's to say, I did a lot of research into what inspired Ace the Bat Hound. Like, what prompts them to give Batman a dog? I don't know. Do you have any thoughts about like why that might be? It's kind of obvious, but like put words to it, I guess.
Yeah. So I guess there's like the Robin, the sidekick,
Sure.
and like that all came out of this idea of relating to the kids a little bit more is to have a superhero kid,
Yeah.
And like everyone loves dogs, and dogs
Sure.
are like a pretty American,
I guess, yeah.
all American kind of thing.
I went on this journey trying to figure out like when did the sort of like American conception of like of like dogs being a man's best friend or whatever come from, and I can't say that I have a firm answer, but I can take you on the journey I went on.
I know it's old.
Sure.
It's like thousands of years old.
Sure. So as far as National Comics is concerned, my my digging, the first time they had a title right that dealt with dogs was Rex the Wonder Dog.
I saw that on the list in this advisory board. It's over here, Rex the Wonder Dog.
It's a book just about dog.
It makes me wonder if like there's connections to older things like Balto.
I'm not familiar with Balto. I have a list of a bunch of dogs in pop culture that I have for later in the episode. We can do it now if you want.
Sure.
Balto. 1919 to 1933. Tell me about Balto. What's Balto?
Oh, gosh. So I would say most of it I know from, like, I think there's a Disney movie that references it or something. It's animated. But it's this idea that, like, Balto led this...
a sled team.
To get some kind of medicine or vaccinations to a pretty remote area of like Alaska or Canada or something like that, because there were people getting sick and dying, especially kids. And so Balto led that team, and the legend is that like Balto kind of took care of it. In the movie, what happens is the human, the musher, doesn't survive, and Balto goes ahead and leads everyone to where they're going anyway. So
fascinating.
Yeah.
When was the movie? Do you know?
Oh gosh. Oh, it's like one of those 90s, maybe 80s.
Okay,
probably
okay,
90s
okay.
movies.
So this is like before this. So couldn't
And there's a
movie would
book.
have been.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so let's talk about the other pop culture stuff before you do Rex, because I think obviously it probably feeds into it. So there's ones that you might think of like dogs and sidekick dogs. I was specifically looking into in pop culture, which is like Pluto and Mickey.
Oh sure.
Tintin, or as my wife tells me because it's French, is Tata.
Yeah.
You don't say the N. Had a dog named Snowy. Both of those predate Rex the Wonder Dog and Ace the Bat Hound. Snoopy debuts in Peanuts in the 1950. Sorry, proper.
So
but which is before.
Yeah.
The big one that seemed like a no-brainer to me was the Phantom. Do you're familiar with the Phantom?
We talked about the Phantom.
Yeah, it's like a pulp hero at the time who inspired a lot of stuff from Batman. He had a wolf. People would always say it's a dog, and he would correct them, let them know it's not a dog.
It's a wolf.
It's a wolf named Devil.
Yeah.
We'll drop a picture
It's a pretty intense name.
in the show notes. Yeah, that was in the serials and comics well before, and not just the serial magazines, but there was actually a silver screen serial,
Oh, cool.
a film serial, in 1943, where Devil was portrayed by a famous German Shepherd. And this was the thing that was happening in the 40s, 50s. I didn't know that until I was researching for this. There were specific dogs that were famous, and one was named Ace the Wonder Dog. So there was actually that's later.
Old Yeller's after,
later. Yeah.
and Lassie's the other one I'm going to look up.
Yep, I have Lassie here in the notes.
Okay. Also, around the same time.
1943 movie, 1939 book, so that's predates.
Oh, okay. I'm seeing 54 as the
That's a TV show.
series, but that's later.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
The gist of Lassie is that the owner falls on hard times and they sell her, and then Lassie comes back home.
Got it.
Right? So that like they have this
Homeward
strong-
Bound.
Sure. Like the sufficient bond or whatever. So yeah, it's on the silver screen, right? But what was interesting to me was that National's comic is called Rex the Wonder Dog. The name of this dog actor is Ace the Wonder Dog. The one that plays Devil in the Phantom.
Oh.
Yeah.
I like that.
There's also another one called Rin Tin Tin that was really famous at the time. It was a bunch of movies.
That's one I was thinking of too. When you were
Yeah.
talking about Tintin, I was like, oh yeah, Rin Tin Tin
Yeah.
also. But
Famous dog, German Shepherd. Old Yeller comes later.
Yeah.
That was my notes. That was my parenthetical. Where it comes from before that, I have no idea. Googling on this one is basically impossible. Like, why are dogs in pop culture big? I'm sure I could find a book about like dogs in mid-century pop culture, but I'm not doing that. It's not worth it. Humans like dogs.
yeah.
Yeah.
For
It's
a
thing.
long
Yeah,
time.
the I have a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. Spaniel. Her name is Luna. I'll put a picture in the show, and the Cavalier. The legend is right that they were like royalty, right? Like, and there's kings and dukes and whatever in England that have their paintings with these spaniels.
Yeah. Well, and then it's called the King Charles Cavalier
Because
Spaniel.
King Charles made a rule change that allowed him in the House of Commons, I think, or maybe House of Lords, I can't remember. Might have been all of Parliament. But from what I understand, what the dogs you buy now that they say are King Charles Cavalier Spaniels are not actually descended. They're just bred to look the same.
Yeah, like legitimately fascinating part of this particular breed.
Yeah. Anyway, people like dogs, man.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I like dogs. Dogs are good.
Across cultures, across continents,
Yeah.
people have loved dogs, like
Sure.
ancient breeds of dogs,
Sure.
pre-pedigree and all that stuff.
Yeah, I was doing some Googling about like war dogs, and like it goes back to like Greece and like Egypt, and apparently that was a thing. Like they trained them to be on the battlefield and stuff like that. And, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but I also read this great dog training book called Team Dog, I think.
Okay. Team Dog.
And it's about this guy who basically he retired from the Navy SEALs and was like, what am I going to do next? I love dogs. So he went into like serious dog training.
Sure.
But one of the things he like starts the book off with is dogs are the greatest con artists that have ever lived because they've convinced us to let them into our houses for like almost no work in return, right?
Yeah.
Which is like, I think kind of a funny way to look at it as well. But I mean,
I think
we love our dogs.
From what I understand, in the Victorian era, when the royalty is having the dogs with them, they had utility in that like you have no central heating, right? And like,
sure.
you can do hot water, but like you have to have a fire for that, and it gets cold over the night, and so like the dog in the bed is warm for you, and it attracts fleas and things like that, and other bugs and things.
Oh, so it's like a sacrificial animal. So the fleas go for the dog instead
Not
of the
you.
people. Oh, that's an interesting point.
So I think there were times when domesticating an animal, like they would hunt the vermin. Like if
that's what
you're
I
on a
was thinking
farm
of.
and there's mice or whatever. But like now,
Yeah.
probably less utility than there used to be.
And when you're in really, really cold climates like Alaska or Canada or whatever, that's where the band name 3 Dog Night is. They're referring to how cold it is, how many dogs have to sleep in your tent to keep you warm. It's a 3 Dog Night.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's like the Matrix, where they're the batteries, you plug them in.
Yeah.
We're using them for their heat.
Yeah.
Literally, yeah. Okay, so they make the jump to comics though.
Sure. Naturally.
Rex the Wonder Dog, probably inspired by Ace the Wonder Dog, the actor. How could it not be?
I think that's great.
Yeah. First issue of that, it's a whole series. It lasts for a few years. Starts in February of 1952. So this is pre-code, right? But it goes for like 50 issues or something like that. It goes for a while. And the gist of the first issue, I read it, was that there's this guy named Danny Dennis. He's the sort of main character boy, right? He's the owner of the dog. Has a dog named Rex. And the first issue, you get the idea that essentially he's running like a sideshow with Rex. Like he's taking him places and doing shows.
Oh, interesting.
You'd be forgiven reading the first episode for thinking it's a period piece because it's all Old West, but it's not. And they do like a sentence of exposition to explain that he's taking the train to this old Western town that's having a benefit show to try to restore it as like a tourist thing, like a historic site, right? So he gets to the town and everyone's like in cowboy hats and like whatever, but present day.
Got it.
And while they're on the train, his dog sees out the window that there's a woman who's going to be trampled by like a stampede of horses. Dog jumps out the window, rescues the girl, right? Jumps on on a horse's back and is like gnawing at it.
I see
It's
that.
kind of impressive.
Yeah, it's bucking bronco, riding like a cowboy.
And the issue is just like filled with. There's not even a ton of story other than they're trying to save this town, right? It's just all kinds of excuses to see the dog do amazing things, right? So, later on, he's actually giving the show, so we see him do a few feats in the show. They don't make enough money, but I guess there's a rich guy there. He's like an oil baron or something like that. He's like, I'll give you all the money. I think it's $2,500. They say to save the city if you bring me a sunburst flower. I don't know if is that a reference you understood?
I don't know what a sunburst
Okay,
flower is.
they say it as if like we should just know. In fact,
maybe they did in 1952.
maybe. He doesn't even call it a sunburst flower. He just calls it a sunburst.
Did you look up what that
I
is?
didn't, because I read a lot of stuff to get ready for this, and I was trying to keep it low key because we're on vacation.
Yeah, that's fair.
There are multiple things where, like, on a normal episode, I would have gone and found the pop culture in the 1950s, like,
Sure.
dog book, and this time I'm on vacation, so.
I don't blame you at all. It is tickling my curiosity brain now.
I'm guessing it's because comics. Like, I don't think there's probably no such thing as a sunburst flower.
I'm seeing a lot of references to it as a thing. Oh, here we go. Pseudobahia, whatever, is a rare species of flowering plant known by common names San Joaquin Adobe sunburst.
Okay.
So I would not, without doing more research, it's probably something like that.
Okay. Well, he decides he's going to go climb the mountain, and the girl he saved earlier, which I believe is like the mayor's daughter or something like that, shows up and is like, "I'm coming with you. What are you doing?" And he's like, "I'm going to get the sunburst flower." And she's like, "That doesn't exist." And then
doesn't exist.
that's what she like. It's legendary.
That would be
somehow.
really tricky though, because
Yeah.
if he's like, "Oh, get your," I mean, it's the thing that like Boy Scouts do is
You're going on a snipe hunt or whatever.
snipe hunt or
Yeah.
like go find your left-handed smoke shifter and stuff
Right,
like that.
like
yeah,
it's a goose
yeah.
chase.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're climbing the mountain, and the dog fights an eagle. The dog fights a mountain goat, like saves them from peril, and eventually at the end sniffs out the flower. That's the end of the issue. You never
Great.
even see him go back and save the town or anything like that. Yeah, it's kind of it's not even really a story. You see the dog
Love
do
a
really
good
cool stuff.
Baron, right? Like they get back and the Baron's like, "What? It exists? The deal's off. I wasn't doing that."
It's a strange book.
And then we get to see sad kids.
I did a little bit more research. They did flesh out the character more. Apparently, he the dog Rex is a test subject for a super soldier serum.
Ah,
During
it's
the
Captain
war.
America.
He's Captain
dog.
America, but a dog.
Got it.
And so the Marvel Age, what we think of as Marvel, doesn't happen until later. That's in the 1960s. However, Captain America and the Human Torch are both Golden Age comics.
I see.
They were at a publisher at the time called Timely Comics.
Oh.
And so what they did in the movies, if you've seen where like Captain America's in World War II, but then he's frozen and then he's thawed later, that actually happens. So in the 30s,
Really?
yeah, or 40s, sorry, there were Captain America comics during World War II, and he's punching Hitler. Timely stops doing superheroes, and in the 60s, Stan Lee becomes in charge of Timely, renames it Marvel, and they thaw out Captain America
Dang.
out of the ice. Yeah, and so, but the time jump in the movies, they're going from what is it like 1943 or whatever to 2012,
Yeah,
which is a big long time.
Yeah.
But when they're thawing Steve Rogers out of the ice in the comics, it's like 1965.
So it's 20 years?
Yeah, it's not even that long.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of cool that mechanism works no matter what.
Yeah.
Okay, so they go into October of 1959 with Rex the Wonder Dog, and it's never had an ongoing series since. So like they've never picked it back up again. But Rex makes lots of like cameos and appearances, and like he's in stuff because people know, tip the hat.
Oh, yeah. Good fan service. Good reference.
100%,
Yeah.
right. The one that comes next is Krypto. Do you know about Krypto?
Sounds like a Superman dog.
That's Superman's dog.
Okay.
Did you see the trailer for James Gunn's Superman?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
the
I
dog
did.
in the trailer. That's
It's Krypto.
Yeah.
Okay.
Krypto is created by writer Otto Binder and art by Kurt Swan. If you go to like DC Universe Infinite, that's who they credit to. Online, you'll also find that there's a guy named Cy Berry who also says that he's a co-creator. He's actually still alive, right? Old guy at this point.
It's a killer name.
Yeah, Cy Berry.
S-Y, Cy,
Yeah.
Cyberry.
He's on the record saying Krypto's his idea. He's the only one left alive, so who knows? And his part of the story is that he spent years inking Rex the Wonder Dog. And when they bring him over to Superman, he's like, we should do a dog again. I can draw a dog.
I'm really good at drawing dogs.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's stick a dog in here.
And so apparently that's his idea. So I read the first issue of it's a Superboy, actually, not Superman. So it's Adventure Comics, which is Superboy. It's a young Superman, basically. It's Smallville, except he wears the suit. And it's very different. So that first appearance, he's not heroic at all. Like Rex is like saving people from things and stuff like that. We start on Earth already, and Clark like sees this dog in the city causing trouble. So like the dog catchers are trying to get him, and he like breaks out of the truck, you know, and he's like, holy crap, that dog just like broke through metal. Like that's really strong. And he like helps the dog catcher. And then later, there's like a robbery happening, and the dog like intercedes on the robbery, but like just by chance. He's not like smart or thinking about it.
Sure.
And the robbers shoot Krypto. We don't know that his name yet. They shoot the dog.
And Krypto dies, right?
No, not at all. He's like totally fine, and Clark's like, what the heck? And Clark's working, so he can't jump in because he's like on the clock. And I guess he's working at his dad's store, which is interesting to me because his dad's a farmer. Yeah. Apparently in Adventure Comics, they own a store. But he goes out back to the shop, and
we ran into this.
Did we?
Yeah, we ran into this before, where he there was some kind of contention between like him helping people and then also helping, and it's like a market or a grocery store or something like that.
Okay, that must be part of the stories.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like one for like 200 issues, by the way, Adventure Comics. So like Superboy was a big deal at the time. I should go back at some point. He goes out behind the shop later, and like Krypto's like chewing on a gun like it's a bone, and he's like, whoa. Yeah, this is a super dog. And so then he sort of befriends it, and he's like, I wonder where you came from. What's your deal? And Krypto, I guess, like kind of understands. Like he doesn't have thought bubbles. He's not thinking, right? Sure. But we get the gist that, you know, through narration that the dog understands. He's like, follow me, right? And the dog takes him to a rocket. At which point we get a flashback, and Jor-El, Clark's dad, is testing rockets before he sends Clark. So he's building it. He's trying to figure it out, right? And he's sending chimps and dogs and things. Just like we did. Just like we did. That was totally a thing. And by the way, they would have known about that, right? This is 1955. And so, you know, that's part of pop culture. The most famous one, Laika, the USSR dog that goes into Sputnik 2, that's after this. Okay. But we know we're sending chimps and dogs and stuff. Yeah. And another thing that's hilarious is that Jor-El's sending dogs into space, and he's got a letter. It's in the and so Clark's reading it, and this dog's name is Krypto. It'd be like naming your dog Eartho. Yeah. It's a little stupid. Yeah. Like, that's interesting. Yeah. If Clark named it Krypto, that would make sense because you're from Krypton. Yeah. But he named. Why would Jor-El? But he's on Krypton, naming the dog Krypto and sending it. Doesn't make any sense. Maybe so people can figure out which planet he's from or something. Like it's weird. But it also like he sent chimps too. Yeah. So it does make you wonder if there is some super chimp out there, you know, and like other super dogs. Well, so the vibe we get, and I'm paraphrasing from memory, so like forgive me, is that like they're not all supposed to go to Earth. But like this one somehow ends up like getting hit by a meteor or something like that, and ends up off course, and then like it goes back to the programming that sends it to Earth. Oh yeah, I'm thinking about super chimps and super dogs. Sure. Other places. Sure. Yeah. Maybe. And that's why, by the way, like getting knocked off course. It's why it comes later. Oh, like Clark's already here. Krypto's been all over the universe or whatever. Finally gets to Earth. He's pinging around like a pinball. Right. And then the rest of the issue is just the dog getting into mischief. Again, not a hero. It's just like he's like, okay, I guess you're my dog now, and like builds like a house for him and puts him on a chain. And like, you're gonna stay here, right? Super doesn't. No. Like goes and like gets a steel girder and rips it out of a bridge and like chews it like a bone. Yeah. And Superboy's like, dude, this bridge is gonna collapse. You can't do that. And like, takes it and puts it back. And it's just like stuff like that over and over and over again. But it also kind of like sets you up to understand like the only person who could tame and train this dog is another like very super person. Yeah. There's a subplot where Lana Lang is convinced Superboy's or that Clark is Superboy. He evades it. Like that's just a subplot of like I assume every issue of Adventure Comics. Probably constant, yeah. And at the end, Krypto flies out into space. The implication being he's not going to be in any other issues. And like creators are on the record saying like, yeah, that wasn't the plan. Like it was a story. It wasn't part of the rotating cast. But Monster of the Week or whatever. But people liked it. Yeah. And so Krypto comes back and is like becomes a regular part of Adventure Comics.
Interesting.
So what did I say? What was that? That was March 1955. So January, the seal starts appearing on National Comics. March, Krypto's, and so it's like pretty clearly like they're trying to look for other types of stories to tell.
Yeah.
Right. Let's introduce a dog. And then in
You said June.
June
right?
of 1955, yeah, we get Ace the Bat Hound shows up in Batman number 92. Bill Finger and Sheldon Moldoff. And this is, I don't know if you remember, we did an episode early on. It was like episode number 5 of the show where we learned about Sheldon Moldoff because at that time he was an apprentice for Bob Kane.
Right.
Goes off and does other books. Comes back in the 50s and is a huge, big time artist on Batman.
Yeah, we've talked
throughout
about
the 50s.
him several times.
Inked by Charles Paris. Win Mortimer does the cover art. Lou Schwartz was an artist that worked on Batman and is often listed as the co-creator of Ace. That I'm not sure how that works because, like, presumably there's like an interview in like Stranko's History of Comics or something that explains how that happened. That again, I'm on vacation. I didn't do that research.
Sure,
but I couldn't find it like through Googling because Schwartz stops being a ghost artist for Bob Kane in 1953. So, and this is 55. So he hasn't been doing art for Batman for years at this point. He's not an editor because, you know, Whitney Ellsworth is an editor. Jack Schiff's an editor on Batman at the time. So, like, it's almost certain that he said somewhere, like, oh, yeah, Ace was my idea. But I couldn't find that. So,
Yeah.
Lou Schwartz.
Over and over again, like figuring out some of the stuff
Sure.
has been really. I mean, even just at the top, you're talking about they're fighting over who did what, Rex?
Yes.
Yeah, it was the Psy guy.
Well, it's so long ago, and they didn't think it was as important as we do.
Yeah, and they were
And
keeping
so-
the records.
Right.
Like, yeah.
But it's cool. Bill Finger's still kicking. Shelley Moldoff still kicking. This is one of the first times where like we're coming to a new character, and it's like we've met all of these people. Even the inker, Charles Paris. He's the guy with the horse upstate. He started by inking the newspaper.
Oh, right,
strip.
right.
Yeah. Horse from Home.
Yeah, it's the guy that like he had like the sweetest gig in the world.
Yeah, he got paid more to do the newspaper strip because it was like more prestigious.
Yeah.
But did less work.
And those were the what were those called? The weeklies or whatever? The newspaper
dailies. He was doing the
dailies.
dailies, not the
Right.
weekends. Yeah. You read this one. I made you read this one.
I did read this one.
Do you have any thoughts on it before we like summarize what happens for people?
It's a lot of impossible things
Sure.
that like don't make a lot of
Sure.
logical sense. That'll be kind of fun to like ping on.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, it's kind of fun to add a dog.
Sure.
Kind of fun that he helps him with some
Yeah.
stuff, but also like significant issues with maybe revealing who that Batman and Robin are.
Yes.
Are
Yeah.
Dick and Bruce.
No, there's definitely like some circular logic and holes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on patrol one night, Dick and Bruce are out as Batman and Robin. They're in the Batmobile and they see from afar a dog drowning in a lake. I think this is interesting because like it's dark out, you're in a car, it's far away. Are you really going to see that?
Yeah.
Apparently they do. They rescue the dog. Next day, Bruce puts in the paper an ad like, "Hey, I found this dog. There's a picture and everything." Trying to find the owner. Meanwhile, they get a call from police headquarters, and they're running to the Batmobile, and the dog is like, "I'm coming with you." Which, like, if you've ever had a dog before, super relatable. Like, every time I walk out the front door, she wants to come with me. She assumes she's coming with me.
Yeah.
And she's sad when she doesn't. She jumps in the Batmobile, and they're like, "Well, we got to go. Like, no time." And Robin realizes, like, "Hey, wait a minute." Like you were saying, like identity stuff. We just put an ad in the newspaper that says, "Call Bruce Wayne if you see this dog," and now it's going to be running around with Batman and Robin. We can't have that.
And this is a very distinct looking dog.
Yes.
People identify it.
Yes. In fact, it looks like Rin Tin Tin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I'll throw it up on the screen, like a picture of the illustration next to Rin Tin Tin.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make a mask. So I don't know how. Like, while Batman goes into the...
He says he tears up a tool bag.
Okay.
Black
Yeah.
cloth from tool bag, pulls it over the dog's head.
Comes up
cuts-
with a perfect cowl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they just roll on.
Yeah, so apparently, he makes the cowl while Batman is in GCPD. Mm-hmm. Gordon tells him, like, "Hey, there's this crime happening at this warehouse downtown," and they go to a warehouse that has like circus supplies. There's gigantic clowns. I don't know why. Bill Finger likes big things, like 3-story tall clowns.
Huge. Like comically large. impossibly large.
Yes. They don't explain what the crime is. They don't explain, you know. So this is a Comics Code thing, right? Like, we get the gist it's organized crime. They don't say that. They've got a single dude in, you know, a monster outfit, you know, and while they're there, the dog gets them. And so it's just an excuse for us to say, like, oh, maybe it's helpful.
So there's a point where it seems like maybe the bad guys like push the clown over to crush them or whatever, and Ace jumps out and warns them. And so he's like, oh, this dog saved our lives.
Right.
We would have been pancakes.
Exactly. They have this moment of realization of like, oh, it might be helpful to have this dog around. Later, they get a call from a guy named John Wilkers. They say, I'm the owner, right? So they go and they load up in the car and they drive as Bruce and Dick to this guy's house. But he's not there. Not only is Wilkers gone, like the house is like disheveled. Like they were searching for something. Bruce finds out where they work, goes to their place of business, and they say, oh man, he hasn't been to work in 2 days. Which doesn't really make sense to me. Like, when did he call?
Well, I think the neighbor called and said, my neighbor owns a dog just like that. You
just interrupted me.
No, it's fine.
For these things.
I wasn't sure if I was right, but you're talking about it doesn't make sense. And I'm just saying something. But they say, yeah, my neighbor has a dog that looks just like that. I think that's my neighbor's dog.
Yep.
They go to the dude's house. It's been like ransacked.
Yeah.
So then they go to the dude's work, and the dude's work is like, yeah, we haven't seen him for a while either. Yeah. And then Batman's like, oh, the dog got out when
this happened.
The house is being ransacked. It's like bing, bang, boom.
Sense. Yep.
And then essentially what happens after that is
they're going to keep the dog because Wilkers is missing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the dog starts to like sniff out and figure out where his owner is.
No. That's not what happens.
No?
No. So they go on it. This is another unrelated thing.
Yeah.
Where they go to GCPD and Gordon's like, it's so stupid the way they do it. There's a robbery happening at a paper mill, but I don't want you to do that. There's a kid that's missing. And so they drive.
And they split up, right?
That must be what happens.
Yeah.
So Robin goes with the dog to find the mother. The mother brings out a piece of clothing, and Ace sniffs it and goes and finds the kid. So that's just an excuse to see the dog being heroic.
And the kid is in a drain pipe. Like no one's like looking, no one's finding him. Yeah, the dog finds him because he's got a nose that's 10,000 times stronger than a human.
It's just an excuse to have him do dog things.
Yeah.
Then very quickly and clumsily, right? There's the plot is that Wilker, the work that they go to earlier is a metal mill. Or a metal distribution or metal
refinery, I don't know, whatever it is.
And the gist is that Wilker has knowledge of how they print bonds, right? Banknotes, basically.
Yeah.
Presumably because he's involved in creating the press or something with the metal. They really escape past it really quickly.
It's an ink factory. It's not a metal factory.
So
that's where they go next.
Sorry. It's fine, and it's convoluted.
It's convoluted.
And stupid. Wilker works for the metal company. There's a robbery at the paper mill. Batman and Robin are there, and they somehow put 2 and 2 together.
Because the paper is special paper for bonds.
Right, and Ace is like freaking out because he smells his owner at the paper mill. And it's like, what could they need with paper and water, or paper and metal? And he's like, I know what they need next. They need ink. Because obviously what they're doing is forging banknotes.
Yeah. Okay.
And so then they go to the ink factory finally and catch the bad guys. But the way that goes is that first Batman and Robin go in without Ace. The mobsters are like,
we're ready
for you. And they tie him up and leave him. Ace comes in, unties them.
Yeah, opens the window, saves them.
So instead of Robin being in peril and Batman saving him, it's Batman and Robin in peril. Ace saves them. Yeah. So he's hero from the very beginning.
It's one heck of a dog.
Yeah. Wilker, the guy that's helping them print the banknotes, is like, oh, thank you for saving my dog. And at this point, remember the premise of like, he's got to have the cowl because Bruce Wayne is the one that put the ad in the paper. You're like, okay, well, now their cover's blown, right?
Yeah.
Well, they took a photo somehow. I assume Alfred dresses up as Batman.
They say that.
Okay. It's Bruce Wayne shaking hands with Alfred and the dog in the picture. And it's like, somehow Batman and Robin knew that Wilker's dog, they figured it out. And they called Bruce Wayne. They got the dog to help him find Wilker.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's how it works.
Yeah, it was basically like Batman's like, yeah, Bruce and I are friends. He let me borrow this dog for this thing. And yeah, cover's blown. And he's like, well, good thing we have this picture of Bruce and Batman in the shot at the same time.
Just so you know, I'm not Bruce Wayne.
Yeah. And then Robin, being like very clear for us readers, is like, but we can't let him ever know that it's Alfred dressed up as Batman.
Yeah, that's so stupid.
Yeah.
And then Wilker's like, oh, you know, if you ever need a crime-fighting dog again, like, thank you for bringing my dog back, and also you can borrow him.
Yeah.
The end. And that's the first outing of Ace the Bat Hound. I think much more than Krypto, he's a hero from the get-go.
Yeah.
Has more in common with Rex, the Wonder Dog. And in fact, given that Rex the Wonder Dog is named after Ace the Wonder Dog, and this is Ace the Bat Hound, and Cy Berry saying, hey, I inked Rex. It actually, people always say like, oh, Comics Code, because this is me doing research, like what's the thought of the Comics Code? And the one that people always go for is like, just a few months later, we get the dogs.
Yeah.
And it's like Krypto and then Ace. And so like, obviously that's how it fell out. But if like DNA wise, to me, this shares far more with Rex than it does with Krypto.
No, I agree with that.
And like, yeah, this is the turn. It's starting to become even more kid friendly. Like the mobsters, they don't even really say they're mobsters. You don't see them, plotting.
Yeah.
They talk a lot less. It is a Bill Finger like convoluted business plot.
Yeah. And Bill Finger's always organized crime. It's not fantastical, right?
But they can't really say that as much.
But they visually they say it really clearly because they're all wearing pinstripe suits and fedoras and stuff. Yeah.
But like we've pivoted hard to the focus of the dog, right? And so it's becoming a little bit more Silver Age silly right away.
Well, and it does kind of still smack of some of those like they only survived this by luck kind of thing. Because like if they hadn't found that dog, they would have been tied up. They would have been screwed. Thank goodness they found this dog that can open windows and untie us and stuff. It reminds me of like solving the Catwoman thing because the note flew out of the boat and back in.
They're supposed to be the heroes of the story, but are they? Yeah. So, but Ace and Krypto become very popular. They sell books. I'm sure. So they're recurring characters throughout the Silver Age. Yeah.
Well, and then it's fun because at home you can say I'm Robin and my dog here is Ace. Yeah. Right. And then we got two of the trio here. Yeah. Where's Batman? Well, we're doing this without him because he went to deal with the steel mill thing, and that's we're over here dealing with Johnny and the.
It's the sidekicks. Sidekick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that Batman's Batman. We got the sidekick.
Yeah. And it's recently there was DC League of Super Pets, so they made a movie about Krypto and Ace and all that kind of stuff. We didn't get to watch it. I wanted to watch it beforehand, but we've been busy. Yeah. Because we got kids. We got a 5-year-old and a 4-year-old. Maybe we'll watch it and then like record a little bonus episode or something at a future date. Yeah. But it has remained part of the canon, cultural relevance. Krypto's in the freaking trailer for the James Gunn Superman. So
yeah, that blew me away actually. Yeah. It was surprised the heck out of me. Yeah. Which is fun. Like just talking about the James Gunn stuff. Yeah. It does seem like he's going to bring a little bit more of the
comic book,
the comic book stuff, and like the deep cuts, but also like some of the fantastical like fun elements of it instead of like so dark and serious.
We definitely had like a decade or so of like grimdark.
Yeah.
And I think they're gonna revert to the mean a little bit, and be a little less afraid of being a little Silver Age silly, because that is so much of like the mind share about these characters is like, they were really popular at a time when they were really silly. So, yeah, that's Ace the Bat Hound.
Now I'm going to look this up right now.
Yeah.
Ace is the dog.
In Batman Beyond?
In Batman Beyond.
Okay. There you go.
Big Rottweiler, Great Dane mix. Though it could be very true that he's just got more dogs and he just names them all Ace.
Periodic reminder, we are not experts. The whole point of this is that we are learning with you, that we do the research just in time. I mean, like, I'm sure people are going to be upset that I didn't know that, but
whatever.
Yeah.
Can't know everything.
It's true.
Another thing that I was thinking about with the issue is the dog's been to the Batcave.
Yes.
And like he could take anyone else to the Batcave.
He could.
Right, like those are there's like as I read through it, they're like kind of layer upon layer of like this is not a good idea.
Sure.
It's fun. I'm fine with it all being fun, but just
Right.
kind of continuing to consider like that cowl like helps them out a little bit, but
Yeah.
like once the dog's out of it, like they can go back. Also, like if they're on this adventure and the dog gets killed, heaven forbid, and then they like take the cowl off of
Sure.
it, and they're like, oh, this is the dog from the paper.
It's
like,
very stupid.
1 + 1 = 2. Yeah.
Yeah. No, the thing is, it's dumb.
Yeah. It's fun.
But
But that's par for the course in terms of comics at the time, like
Sure.
aimed at kids. Like don't look too closely.
sure.
But
I mean,
it
it's
is-
par for the course of comics now.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, it is.
I mean, it is not nearly as silly on the nose as it used to be, but there's a lot of like jumps in logic.
Okay.
And, like, it happens when so much action happens between panels. The storytelling happens over years and years and years, and everyone's saying yes and like.
Oh, that's true.
There's
That's
a lot
true.
of because comics.
I was just thinking more like in one issue.
Oh, sure,
Is there
yeah.
a lot of issues
No,
or challenges?
This has plot holes so large you could drive a Mack truck through them. Yeah. But cool.
I'm gonna name my next dog Devil. It turns out.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Also, I think it's funny how I don't think in my head when I think of like hero dogs, I think
Yeah.
of like Dobermans and
Sure.
Great Danes, like things that are a little bit closer to like wolves. And Krypto is like not even close.
Yeah.
That's kind of funny.
He looks like what is he? He's like a what's the floppy eared dogs?
What kind of
Bloodhound.
dog
He looks like a bloodhound or a basset hound.
is it Krypto?
No, that's a better question, I guess.
Labrador